going to be a nasty storm. We've already seen multiple reports of straight line wind damage across the viewing area, and some of that came from this storm system itself further to the west out towards Stewart, where there were reports of trees down and likely other damage that has not been called in yet. But as we look at this system itself, looking at it from a wider perspective, this is the only tornado warning right now we have within our area, and also largely within the mid-Atlantic, and likely an indication that we're going to start shifting here to the next part of this, which is further out to the east as this line of storms starts getting into a little bit more of a favorable environment. Again, I talked a little bit earlier about how some of the rain and some of the thunderstorms from this morning that we saw in areas such as Roanoke down into the New River Valley could have ended up absorbing a little bit more energy, making those areas less conducive for any kind of tornado development. That indeed looks like it's been the case, which is certainly good. However, we did not see that same level of thunderstorm development from the prefrontal stuff that came through in parts of Southside. That's likely why we're seeing some of these stronger storms pop up here and there down towards that area. Again, debris detection, not really anything there to worry about. Shear, rotation, there's some rotation there with that, but as we look at how it exactly is going to play out here as it goes further to the east, it's very broad in nature, it appears, so likely we're just going off of the overall shape of this radar hook as it makes its way further out. Right now, it appears, Danville, you're pretty much out of the woods from this system right now. But as we take a little bit of a closer picture, you can see where this storm has kind of broken apart a little bit more further out towards 360 and as it makes its way towards parts of Halifax and South Boston. But again, taking a look further to the north, I think towards Chatham, Gretna, we're likely going to see some pretty damaging wind gusts there. And then again, as I've mentioned all morning long, watching these cells very closely up towards Lynchburg and further down between Lynchburg and Danville. Those are the areas we're watching as this line of storms progresses to the east. Right now, Rocky Mount, Martinsville, it looks like you're in the clear from this system. This system looks like it's passed through the area. But as for Danville, still dealing with a little bit more rotation there. Check that shear again one more time. And it appears like most of the shear is actually forming further to the north. And you will notice that we just had a little bit more of that warning further out to the west expire there. I believe that was a severe thunderstorm warning that just expired, and it was. But as this system makes its way further to the east, it's likely to expire here later on, about 11:45, so 15 minutes to go within that as it moves further to the east. But then again, we've seen this all morning long where we've seen warnings expire and they become reissued as they make its way further to the east rather than them being continuous, which is why we've been in and out pretty much the entirety of the last hour or so. Now, as this storm system makes its way further to the east, again, we're watching as quite a bit of damaging winds come into the area further out towards parts of Lynchburg, all the way down into Danville, Halifax, and South Boston. Now, as this system makes its way further and further east, going to end up being included on a pretty favorable environment in terms of energy, a little bit more daytime heating allowed for further to the east. But this storm system right now, its rotation is just very broad. And right now, that's a very good thing to see. You want to have rotation broad. You do not want to have it tighten up and really start making a couplet. And frankly, it looks like this storm is weakening. Delaney, are you seeing anything else involving that? Because right now, from what I'm seeing, it looks like this northern extent of the cell is really the strongest part of it. And then you take a look further to the north, and there may end up being some hail up towards Chatham.
Absolutely. I'm seeing very similar things here that we're seeing really for the shear and what we're seeing for that couplet. It's actually forming a little bit further north of that polygon. You'll notice parts of Beaver, Park, Kentucky all up next for this rotation. But looking at this couplet located right here and that polygon, of course, extending a little bit further on towards the south. So go ahead and we'll take a gander at this together. This is a very interesting setup. We have the couplet here, but the polygon extending further out. So I would not be shocked if the National Weather Service does trim this polygon just a bit and expire Danville from this warning. But right now, we're still seeing the formation of this couplet. But as Edward was just mentioning, it is definitely cycling, but I am growing increasingly concerned a little bit about this, what we're seeing further north. They do have a secondary couplet that's starting to form in and along this line right here of something very similar to what was warned even just an hour or so ago, looking to recycle just a bit. So we're still seeing that strengthening in parts and along of Malmason Road. Now you are included in this a little bit further south, closer to Kentucky, but once that road takes you closer to Cartersville, that's when we're still seeing the rotation. As of this scan, it may be gone in the next one, but right in and along here, this could be a situation where we see that polygon extended further north towards that storm to Cartersville. So we're watching that very closely. But overall, this system, it's looking to strengthen a little further north. Again, where that couplet was in the Cartersville area. But the National Weather Service not updating us on whether or not this is going to be something that is expired. They did, just as Edwards was mentioning, expire that severe thunderstorm warning for Franklin, Henry, and Pennsylvania, but they have kept this tornado warning in place, and we have that in effect until 11:45. But once we go ahead and pop on the hail layer, you'll notice the hail core with the strengthening of this system closer towards Gretna and Chatham. Now, Danville not seeing at least that heavy hail at this point, or seeing significant hail, but that storm relative velocity still showing that we do have a bit of that broader rotation in parts of Kentucky as this moves a little bit further north. So what we'll go ahead and do, and it looks like they just trimmed that warning, will be updated on this computer in just a second, but they have officially expired that for portions of Danville and Halifax, but this is continuing to be extended further on into Pittsylvania County. The latest bulletin from the National Weather Service that this is continuing for parts of Pennsylvania, but again, that has moved out of the warned areas we were seeing in this polygon as it stretched a little bit further. So it looks like the National Weather Service focusing on this couplet right around here. Is that still active in the Pennsylvania area? So this is still moving towards the northeast, about 45 miles an hour. So we're going to pop a storm track on this updated polygon and take a gander who is up next for the leading edge of this rotation. So this is still moving along at a pretty good clip, about 45 miles an hour. And once we stretch this out a little bit further, here is what we're looking at next. Red Oak Hollow, this is 8 minutes away from your backyard at this point, and this is also looking at the radar scans. This is lining up very well with this inflow notch right here. This is where that rotation is located. Red Oak Hollow, this is 8 minutes away from your area. Birch, 10 minutes away. Ingram, 11, Pickaway, 12 minutes, and Henry's Mill, 13 minutes away from your backyard. So we're still seeing that rotation heading on to the northeast, about 45 miles an hour. And you'll notice all of these white dots where we're seeing those towns that are impacted. If I have listed off your town, it is time to take shelter now, as this radar indicated tornado, I will state this has not been confirmed on the ground, but this is headed towards your way. Once we look at the actual debris signature, if there is one, this is our debris detector, which would detect what we call a correlation coefficient. And what we're seeing, we're looking at some sort of random burst of bright color that would signify there's something that is not a raindrop, a hailstone, or anything of that nature. But right now we're not seeing anything. This is all a uniform blanket of color, which is good news, but we're seeing right about here, that's what we're looking for. Now this could just be hail a little bit further up on into that cloud deck, but watching that area in Danville. Once we go ahead and zoom in on this to see what we have going on, this is not included in the warning area. And as you can see, this is nothing where we're seeing any sort of rotation. So let's compare this, looking at this area where we're seeing a little bit of that higher correlation coefficient, a little bit of a drop there in that correlation coefficient. Once we pop on the radar, you'll notice this is registering in our computer and not seeing much. So this is nothing to be concerned about, but likely upper in that cloud deck could see some hailstones that are not making it to the surface. So that's another case where we're not seeing any debris, but likely just that hail center. So going back to our area rotation, checking in on this warning, you'll notice this is still weakening a bit, but headed out towards Old Richmond Road and Red Oak Hollow next. You're up in line for this storm. It's time to get in your safe space along Birch Creek Road, Old Richmond Road and headed along Mount Tabor Road and Randolph Drive. You are not included in this warning, but this is headed in your direction, and we will hopefully have word on whether the National Weather Service is going to continue this warning. But for now, we're still keeping it in effect for Pittsylvania County until about 11:45. Ed, what are you thinking about that weakening couplet?
So what I'm noticing right now, and with this storm itself looks like it is weakening a little bit more. But as it makes its way further to the east, the main thing that we're going to have to watch is areas from Halifax all the way into central Virginia towards the I-95 corridor. Right now, what we've seen here over the last few hours has been that steady line of damaging showers and thunderstorms all the way from Lynchburg down into Danville, where that tornado warning exists. And you notice the warning polygon getting modified just a little bit to account for the direction of this storm. Danville, you look like you're in the clear right now from this system, as most of this has progressed further to the east. But the thing that I want to emphasize is this threat is not over, especially further to the north, and as this system makes its way further to the east, out past Lynchburg and into Farmville. This is a very broken line of showers and thunderstorms, and we've seen reports of tornado warnings all the way up towards parts of D.C. There was actually reports of a possible tornado just outside of Dulles International Airport, and further down into our area. What we've seen so far has not been tornadic yet, but as this system makes its way into areas that are running a little warmer, more energy, more daytime heating, those are regions that could end up seeing a little bit more development, especially when you talk about what we're seeing here within our area because of that system progressing eastward. Again, let's put the Storm Prediction Center outlook right now to talk about what exactly we're seeing. The greatest area for severe weather, again, the easternmost parts of our viewing area. So if you're out towards Lynchburg, Appomattox, even as far east as South Boston, you're in the areas that have the greatest chance for any kind of severe weather development, and that includes all the way from D.C. down into Richmond, South Side, and parts of central North Carolina. In terms of power outages, likely going to continue to see quite a few more here over the next few hours, given the fact that we're watching as temperatures really feed into some stronger storms, which, speaking of that, look at this gradient right here for what we're seeing right now. Turn off the watch layer real quick, but look at how we have warmer temperatures further to the east, out toward Roanoke and into parts of the Lynchburg area and into parts of South Side. Those are going to be leading to a lot more energy. Talking about dew points, drier air further to the west, a lot more moisture in the air further to the east, and you can actually see where that area where that severe thunderstorm warning and that tornado warning are. Those are the areas with quite a bit more moisture within the atmosphere. And you also notice a little bit more breaking up in the cloud cover further to the east as well, and especially further to the north. That's all coming as a result of some of this daytime heating, and that's likely going to make any kind of severe weather we see a little bit more potent further east you go. As for this system right now, turn your warnings and watches back on real quick, and you see where that warning, it appears likely that it's going to be let to expire here over the next few minutes, as most of this is outside of the warning polygon already. However, I've talked extensively about this. This is the area where I am more concerned about right now in terms of what we may end up seeing here over the next few minutes, as that appears to be an area where there's a little bit more shear and a little bit more hail, which is indicative of more upward motion. The more you get rising air, the more likely you are to end up seeing severe weather development within the area. And there's also quite a bit of lightning within that storm system as well. Again, we'll take another look at the velocity real quick. Again, you take in the base velocity, not really much there. But when you account for the speed of the storm, there's also a very broad center of rotation. A lot of it, again, I think is further up to the north, and we could end up seeing something form further up to the north of this region. But as for right now, it appears like this cell is moving further to the east. Still going to be potent enough for severe thunderstorm warning, but I think the tornado warning itself, I think right now we're on the tail end of it, and it's largely looking like it could expire. But again, we've said that here a couple times prior, and then we've been back on almost immediately after. However, looking up towards Alta Vista, let's take a look at this, because you notice here there are reports of hail on radar. A lot of lightning within that system, indicative of a little bit more upward motion, more rising air, which comes as a result of some higher temperatures up that way. I've talked about the temperatures. I've talked about the dew points, which essentially is the amount of moisture in the air. And it's certainly more prevalent the further east you go. So the low-level shear within this system is there, meaning it won't take much for rotation to start. The question remains, do the storms end up getting enough energy to fuel any kind of significant rotation or any kind of development that could end up dropping a tornado on parts of our region? Right now, it appears like the main line of storms is moving further out to the east of Lynchburg. But right now, we have not seen any significant updates with this tornado warning down here. And again, it looks like most of this has passed out of the area, out of Pittsylvania County. Does it get extended into Halifax County? That remains to be seen. But as for what we're looking at right now for the rest of the day, temperatures towards Central Virginia increasing into the mid to upper 60s within the area. That's enough heat energy, possibly up as high as 70 in some parts. That's enough heat energy to get storms going, given how strong this cold front moving through is. From Halifax all the way out towards Hanover County and Central Virginia. Those are going to be the key areas that we need to watch for any kind of severe weather development. For Roanoke, Blacksburg, Martinsville even, areas further to the west in the New River Valley and the Roanoke Valley, you look like you're done for the day for now in terms of the severe weather. Now we just have temperatures that are going to plummet behind the passage of that front. But again, further to the east within our viewing area, those are going to be the areas that end up hardest hit. We cannot break into different isolated counties and just the TVs and the devices that are in very small polygons. So if you're in Blacksburg and you're wondering, there's nothing going on here within my neck of the woods, we know. But further to the east, somebody else does have something going on. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Far from the most important thing with this, as everybody's safety is number one. But as this system continues to develop, that tornado warning likely going to expire here within the next couple of minutes. But again, the reissuance of these warnings is something we're taking and we're watching very, very closely. Right now, we're seeing severe weather develop further into parts of Northern Virginia, up towards D.C., and likely going to see this system really explode as it gets closer to the I-95 corridor here over the next few hours. The next 2 to 3 hours are going to be key as the system makes its way that way. But as for what we're seeing right now, again, that tornado warning expiring here pretty much any second now. It is 11:45, and that warning is set to expire at 11:45. But the key thing is going to be watching to see how this plays out, as it looks like a lot of the moisture and the strength from some of these southern storms has since dissipated. And there goes the tornado warning. So further to the north, though, we are watching this area out towards just east of Alta Vista, towards Brookneal. You're going to be areas we watch very intently all the way down, further down to the south, Charlotte area, Charlotte Courthouse area. This is going to be an area where we need to watch very, very closely as these severe thunderstorms continue to develop. Right now, not seeing any kind of signs of reissuance for any kind of tornadic activity. And it appears right now that there are several reports of downed power lines out towards Southside, Martinsville, Stewart, including parts of Danville even. So be very mindful of that. If you do happen to be out and about, don't go anywhere near power lines or anywhere near water near power lines. But again, I think over the next few hours, the big area we're going to need to watch for is this area right here between Southside and the Lynchburg zones. We will hop off now. We will be back on with 10 News at noon here in about 14 minutes, assuming we don't break in before that. But overall, we'll send you back to regularly scheduled programming. We're going to continue to watch this, especially these regions. But as for right now, have not seen any signs of a tornado on the ground over the last few hours. But we will continue to keep you updated online and on air. Stay safe, be smart, and we will see you around.